Peach Pundit, the podcast, is a conversation filled with the personal opinions of the people who are participating. Any view or opinion expressed belongs only to the person who expressed it and not with anyone with whom that person is professionally affiliated.
Greetings, folks. Welcome to another episode of Peach Pundit, the podcast. I'm Jason Pye, joined by Buzz Brockway and Scott Turner. Guys, good to see you after a well-deserved week off last week. We took a bit of a break. I think we are just as tired as the standard American public. Like, we are exhausted, folks. Like,
I won't tell you who I texted today to tell them that after 100 days I'm exhausted. But I did text somebody that today.
I mean, well, weeks ago, I sent out a tweet. You know, everybody was all upset about something or other that Trump had allegedly done. And I think in that case, he didn't actually do it. But I said, folks, we got to pace ourselves here. You know, we got a long way to go. And my pal, Jay Bookman, took exception to that. You know, will you let us know exactly when to freak out? Well, you freak out whenever you want. I'm just saying he's going to be here a while. He's going to be here.
Clearly, Jay doesn't listen to Peach Pundit, the podcast, because he would know that we are all a little concerned here. And before we go pay some bills, I will note that I have become an avid watcher of polls over the course of the past year, and Fox News has Trump down, his disapproval down 11, negative 11. Pew has him negative 19. Ipsos Reuters has him down 11.
And he was riding high before the tariffs. He was
above water for like the first time in his political career.
Yeah, for the first like 60 days.
Yeah,
and then in the last 30 days, it is tanked. His approval rating matches the chart you see of the Dow Industrial Index, where it reaches a point and starts to drop.
You can probably put a pin on whatever day Liberation Day was.
Which Liberation Day? We've had like 5 of them.
He was liberated from his positive approval ratings.
And from what exactly was I liberated? Like I keep because like I don't know. I think free trade's a good thing.
I have a rant about that I am going to pop off on. That the liberation, the whole thing, under a larger umbrella. That's coming up in the podcast.
Well, it sounds good. Folks, we will be right back.
Do you want to protect prosperity? AFP Georgia is pounding the pavement in communities across the state, advocating for the extension of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. If Congress doesn't act by the end of the year, Georgians can see their federal tax bill rise by over $2,500 next year. Paid and volunteer opportunities are available. Visit protectprosperity.com to learn more and email infoga@afphq.org to join the effort. That comes from our friends at Americans for Prosperity, who are a partner level Patreon. You too could be a Patreon by heading on over to patreon.com/peachpundit, signing up for one of our tiers today. At as little as $5, you can join us here live in the audience and support our podcast. Thank you so much to those folks who do.
Peach Pundit has an anonymous Patreon who would like to invite you to learn more about the Alzheimer's Association. The Alzheimer's Association leads the way to end Alzheimer's and all other dementia by accelerating global research, driving risk reduction and early detection, and maximizing quality care and support. No one should fight Alzheimer's alone. With your help, no one will. Learn more on their website, alz.org.
Well, we have several things to go over today, and we're going to try to keep this more abbreviated than usual, much to our audience's enjoyment. So, Scott, before we jump in, I'm going to let you go through your rant.
Oh, you want to do that now?
No, do that now.
Rant. Yes.
I mean, you already teased it. Go ahead and get it out of the way.
Let it out.
Listen, I have to talk for a minute about populism. And I'm going to start by saying you are not a victim. You're being played. Populism is a sugar rush. It convinces people that they're victims of everything except their very own poor decisions. We don't try to stoke outrage at Peach Pundit. We try to inform specifically about stuff that's happening in politics that impacts the average Georgian. We have opinions and we air them here with the intent to share what's going on, but we never try to intentionally stoke your outrage. But there are grifters out there that will, and they do. And they have much larger audiences than we do. And if you want that, you're free to go and find it. It will not be hard. You can look almost anywhere. Populism survives on grievance. It feeds off resentment like it's oxygen. And the worst part is it doesn't solve anybody's problems. It actually manufactures them. And those manufactured problems are designed to outrage you. But if you ever stop feeling like the system's rigged against you, you might realize you've been conned by the very same people claiming to be your saviors who are actually stoking that outrage. Populism tells you it's you versus the elites, that there's a grand conspiracy out there that's designed to keep you down, that every institution, from the courts to the press to the voting booth, they're all out to get you. Why? Because it's the easiest path to power, attention, fame, money, not by earning trust or presenting real solutions, but by constantly whispering in your ear, they're all going to laugh at you, but I'll fight for you. Just give me the power. And people fall for it over and over again. But here's the truth. Populism, it doesn't lift anybody up. It just finds someone else to blame. It tells you you're a victim, not because you are, but because it makes you easier to control. Once you believe the whole system's against you, you'll ignore the red flags. You'll excuse incompetence, Hexeth. You'll defend the inexcusable, tax increases in the form of tariffs that are tanking our economy. Because you're not following a leader anymore. You're clinging to a lifeboat of rage that somebody else is steering. Meanwhile, the people peddling this garbage, they're just fine. They've got their donor lists, their book deals, their cable hits, their CNN contributors, or Fox News or Newsmax contributors, or maybe they have a podcast with tens of thousands of listeners. And they're sending out fundraising emails that land in your inbox before votes are even counted. They don't want to fix the system. They want to own it. They want to cash that check. They want to keep you angry enough to never notice. So let me say this to you out loud. You are not a victim. You are a citizen in a republic, which means that you have power, real power. When you think, when you vote, and when you refuse to be manipulated. Populism wants you to believe everything's broken. Why? Well, because broken things are easier to burn down. But you know what's harder and braver? Fixing what's real, ignoring what's fake, and refusing to be anyone's pawn. You are not a victim. You're being played. And the minute you realize that, grifters start to panic. Rant over.
It was great. It was great talking to you guys this week. Great episode of Peach Pundit, the podcast.
Mic drop.
Yeah. God, I mean, like, we've agreed far too much lately.
Is that Jason moderating? Or is that Scott getting more bitter? I don't know.
Look, I hate to be cynical, but you see it. Social media is not a real place. Twitter's not a real place. Thank you, Dave Chappelle, for pointing out Twitter's not a real place. But here's the thing. You go on there and I see an activist in Cherokee County who I know and love and respect. I adore this man talking about how great tariffs are. And it's like,
yeah,
you would never have allowed for those words to come out of any Republican's mouth without you pushing back. And I've seen great Republican conservatives I've known for decades saying things like, it's returning manufacturing jobs back. Not one job has come back because of tariffs. Not one. And it's crediting things like an aluminum smelter. We're having our first aluminum smelter in 50 years. Is this meme that was on social media. And I engaged in the conversation. I said, that project was actually approved under the Biden administration. And the reaction was, Scott, I remember when you used to be conservative.
Yeah.
No, I still am. Maybe you aren't.
Or the paper mill that shut down, that's planning to shut down, and the shutdown of this paper mill is going to cost 800 jobs. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't remember if I've said this a lot over the past month or so, written it also, that there's this study, I can't remember the university it came from, that they said 88% of the job losses that occurred between 2000 and 2010 happened because of increased productivity, and that includes automation. Only 12% happened because of like displacement, whether that was trade or outsourcing or offshoring, whatever you want to call it. Like it's not trade. The manufacturing index remains high.
Yes.
But while the number of jobs in manufacturing has gone down, blame the robots. Blame the robots.
Right, and we produce different things than we used to. Right, we produce heavy equipment, we produce high tech stuff. Those are the kind of things that are manufactured these days.
And we have a surplus in services.
Yes.
We have a trade surplus.
Yes.
When you listen to Donald Trump talk, he conflates the trade deficit and the federal budget deficit. The two have nothing to do with each other.
None. Zero.
Nothing to do with each other.
Yeah.
If anything, we have a lot of foreign investment, at least until the trade war, that was coming into the United States, which is a good thing. That's a sign of our economic strength. In addition to having a trade deficit, you have a trade deficit because the people in your country, the economy, they have a high demand for different products, particularly products that come overseas. The thing is, and the thing nobody wants to talk about, is the fact that the vast majority of the jobs that did go overseas, the ones that weren't automated, are not jobs you want.
Right. Well, was that poll last week or the week before?
Week before.
That maybe I guess we didn't podcast last week. We didn't talk about it. So people, I forget the numbers. A majority of people said, it'd be good to have more manufacturing jobs in the United States.
It was like 75% of the people who said that we should have more manufacturing jobs in America said that they do not want a manufacturing job.
Right. It's for somebody else should go work there.
There
it's
were
kind
some
of like all the polls on rapid transit. Yes, absolutely. Build MARTA up here in Gwinnett County.
Will you write
other
it?
people
No.
other people will do it, and I'll have less traffic on the road. But I don't know if you guys have done. It seems to me Trump's trying to find an out. He's China suddenly. Oh, we're only going to do 45% on China. We're cutting deals here and there. We're cutting deals left and right. He's trying to find he's trying to find an off ramp because he knows. Because the one thing he cares about more than anything else is his approval rating and his popularity, and are people saying mean things about him.
Yeah,
and there are a whole lot of people saying mean things about him, more than normal.
I don't want to belabor the point because we do have other things to discuss, but it's this. You saw Scott and I were talking. Scott and I do occasionally talk outside of the podcast, and we talked this morning, and I was telling him, obviously the big crash or the sell off we saw on Monday in the stock market was related to the threats that were being thrown at Fed Chairman Jerome Powell. And the thing is, somebody asked me, like, is there any example of that from our history? And there actually is. In the 1970s. I forget the name of the Fed chair. I actually wrote about this at the Independent Center in our every 2 weeks mailbag that I do. And it's just basically answering a bunch of questions. And I talked about this where Nixon he had price and wage controls. He had done the Nixon shock. He took the United States off the last vestige of the gold standard. He imposed wage and price controls, and he pressured the Fed into keeping interest rates artificially low. And they stayed low. They were like, going into the presidential election in 1972, which is why he wanted it. Interest rates were around 3.6, or inflation was around 3.6%. The year after shot up to like 6.5%, and then in 1974 it was up over 11%. So and it was because the Fed had a loose monetary policy when it shouldn't have had a loose monetary policy. It can wreck the economy, and that inflation lasted a decade.
Yeah.
So
and we got the misery index out of that.
Stagflation. Yeah. That's right. So, what we have plenty of. We're going to get into some of the things that we want to discuss, but I will go with mine first since I'm already talking, and that is the Punch Bowl reported. It's one of the newsletters I read. They reported earlier this week that during the week of May 5th, which I want you to keep in mind here, May 5th is Cinco de Mayo. That the House of Representatives will be voting on the Gulf of America Act. This is a Marjorie Taylor Greene sponsored bill that would codify the name change of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. Obviously, this is a highly partisan bill. It cleared committee by a vote of 24-17. It's going to go to the floor under a rule, which means it'll, highly contentious partisan bill. Even if it passes, this thing is dead on arrival in the Senate. And I know that they're working through the process on the tax bill, which every single conversation I've had, there is everything from a whisper of skepticism to very loud skepticism, whether they can get that done.
See, just to clarify, that's the extension of the Trump tax cuts, which is looming, right? The deadline is looming, right?
Yeah, the individual portion of the tax bill expires at the end of the year. So there is whispers of skepticism to very loud skepticism that they can get that done. And I've probably had 24 conversations about it just in the past month. But this is what the House of Representatives will focus on during the week of Cinco de Mayo.
Has the legislative branch passed a second bill under Donald Trump?
Yes, they have actually passed the five of them. So we got the CR, and
CR doesn't count in my mind, but keep going.
The CR shouldn't count it shouldn't count. 3 disapproval resolutions under the Congressional Review Act and the Lake and Riley Act. Those are the 5.
So wake me up when Marjorie Taylor Greene does something that's actually going to make my life better. I'm going to bed.
Yeah, that's the thing. And not only is Marjorie Greene not making your life better, she's actively further News at 11, Marjorie Taylor Greene divides the country. But I mean, obviously, well, I don't know that you guys saw this, but I did. Her comments that she apparently made right after the death of Pope Francis.
Oh, yes, I saw that.
Well, she said that God's taking care of the evil in the world.
Yeah.
Every other member of the Georgia congressional delegation sent out condolences.
Yes.
And words of encouragement and prayer for those who are mourning the passing.
Yeah.
And she puts out God's taking care of the evil. I'm paraphrasing, but it's very close to what she said.
It's very close to what she said. So I'm going to shut up now.
Yeah, that was Nathaniel Darnell's take when David Ralston passed away.
Yeah.
And there were a whole bunch of Republicans who were really upset.
Yeah.
About Nathaniel Darnell's comments about David Ralston.
Being from Georgia, having grown up in an evangelical Christian home, I listened to a lot of Christian rock when I was a youngin. The ages of like 12 through 13 or whatever. And remember the band Third Day?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
They had this song on their first record: if you ain't got nothing good to say, don't say nothing at all.
It's a good life lesson. I think I saw that in a Disney movie sometime too.
Yeah, I don't.
The good version of that movie.
Scott, give us an update on State Senate District 21. Who is running and why? Pray tell, is Brandon Beach still there?
Yeah. So we had been told that Senator Brandon Beach's first day as a U.S. Treasurer, a role that oversees the U.S. Mint, making sure the gold stays at Fort Knox, that role was slated to start April 15th. Today is April 24th, and State Senator Brandon Beach is still a state senator. So I'm not going to call Brandon and ask Brandon, right? But I poked around a little, and what I found out is everything's on track. Everything's very much on track. Brandon Beach is awaiting his security clearance. I imagine it's pretty high level security clearance that you would have to pass. And then that once that's done, he's going to go ahead and move on, but he's not announcing his resignation until then. And we've learned through Calvin Smyre's example, who was the longest serving member of the Georgia House, resigned his seat to become an appointee. I believe at first he was appointed to be the ambassador to the Dominican Republic, and then ultimately that got pulled back and made of the Bahamas, and he never got the appointment.
Right.
And the rumor was something in his security clearance prevented him. He never even got a hearing.
Yeah.
So he had resigned his seat. And so Brandon, I guess, has learned from the Calvin Smyre. Maybe I shouldn't do that. But the world here in Cherokee County, where the majority of State Senate District 21 resides, has moved on without him. Several people have thrown their names in the hats and officially announced their campaigns. Among them are a local businessman who is named Jason Dickerson. Jason is a Republican who has announced and pulled back campaigns for several other offices over the years. He had at one point announced for Bruce Thompson's district, but then they redrew the district and he ended up in Brandon's district. And so he withdrew that campaign. He owns a trucking company and is heavily involved in philanthropic opportunities in Cherokee County specifically. Another person that has thrown their name into the hat is County Commissioner Steve West, who is multi-generational here in Cherokee County. He has a huge network of family members who live here and will ultimately vote for him before they vote for anybody else. Bryce Futch, who is a fireman and is associated with the Club for Growth. He had mentioned to me personally earlier this year that he was looking to run for Congress when Barry Loudermilk stepped down, but he has also thrown his name in the hat. There is a guy named Brian Will, who is a city council member for Alpharetta. We already see his signs everywhere. So he's not waiting for Brandon to resign. And a former Army Ranger named Grant McGarry. They're all definitely in, right? So we have those 5, and then you have a whole bunch of more who are rumored, including former state rep Wes Cantrell, who will not likely make a decision until Brandon decides whether or not he's actually going. David Belle-Isle, the former mayor of Alpharetta, an erstwhile candidate for Secretary of State, has continued to be rumored. Another guy continued to be rumored is Billy Hayes, who is the CEO of Cherokee Northside Hospital. And there are others that I'm sure we haven't heard of, but they're all on the rumor tracker. That's where we are right now. That's why Brandon Beach is still here. Nobody seems to be waiting for Brandon to actually resign before kicking off their campaign. As a matter of fact, just last night, at least 2 of the candidates attended a candidate forum in the district in Cherokee County. So it's going to, if for some reason Brandon decides to pull this back, he's going to have some problems on his hands come primary time, I think.
Yeah, Buzz.
I would just add that McGarry, the rumored candidate, I guess
he's not rumored. He's announced.
Right.
Yes.
He was at the Capitol before the session was over, working the crowd. So he's been working for a while.
Well, Buzz, you have some news, something Stacey Abrams said that will make us all laugh.
Well, you'll all be very excited to know that Stacey Abrams, the 2-time nominee for governor on the Democratic side, was considering running for governor a 3rd time. And now, today, Greg Bluestein wrote an article about it, talked to Democrats, some of whom would not go on the record, several would. And there's a lot. It's interesting. I think the quote that probably sums it up best comes from Cody Hall, not a Democrat, obviously.
Very much not a Democrat.
But he's more or less kind of trying to goad her into running. He says, every Georgia Democrat is scared to death Abrams runs again because they know they can't beat her in a primary, he said, but she's also probably their worst candidate in the general. So I think the reason I wanted to flag this, I think 2 things are going on here that are of note. Number one, Democrats aren't winning around. Obviously, earlier this week, Senator Jason Estevez made it official, actually did jump in the race. Former Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms is making plans to run. She says she's going to run.
Horrible idea.
Yes. And Michael Thurman is, I don't know, it seems a little less likely to run, maybe, but he's one that folks are talking to and talking about. So people aren't waiting around to find out what Abrams is going to do.
I mean,
they're making their plans. Right?
I saw Thurman at a Cobb County Chamber event recently. He felt like he was running. It felt like, and as a matter of fact, after the panel was done and he was finished speaking, he was in the crowd and he was asking people to support him.
I think, and this was one of my predictions at our prediction show a while back. I think he's going to run, and I think he's a heck of a candidate for the Democrats. To me, if they're smart, they nominate Michael Thurmond because he's not a bomb thrower. He's not a far left candidate.
Yeah. And that's exactly what you need in the environment that it looks like Democrats are going to have in 2026. And, it's because it's obvious Democrats smell blood in the water for good reason, at least right now. But we'll also know politics can change in an instant.
Yes.
But so not making any predictions. That's for January 2026. But things can change. That being said, I can't think of a worse idea. The worst idea than Keisha Lance Bottoms running is for Stacey Abrams to run again.
Yes,
Michael Thurmond is the type of candidate you would need for Democrats to have some success, just like John Ossoff is the candidate Democrats need to have success in the Senate race. Just like, you look at the Cook Political Report, and I don't remember off the top of my head how many. Well, I'll use this number because I know this number is right. There are 13 crossover districts. There are 3 represented by Republicans, 10 represented by Democrats. You cannot go into one of these crossover districts and with a flame-throwing progressive and win those races.
Right.
And Georgia is still, personally, I still think it's a purple state, but you can't win with the AOC or Bernie Sanders type candidate in Georgia. You can't. It's not going to happen.
And the Democrats here haven't learned that because they've taken up all of the same Kamala Harris positions that cost her the election last year. Not that she really had a shot at it anyway, but they've doubled down on all of that stuff. Specifically, walking out of a legislative session over whether or not taxpayers should fund transition surgeries for convicted felons in jail.
Yeah, and I think I posted it in the Peach Pundit Signal chat that Patreons can be a part of. There's a poll where a majority of Democrats, I forget the exact number, but a majority of Democrats think the answer is to go hard left.
Yeah,
that's the dumbest thing, which is why suddenly everybody's talking about AOC 2028. So
I mean, that's because it's one of those things. I was actually thinking about this earlier. It's like, I consider myself a pretty independent voter, and it's like, obviously I'm not going to vote for JD Vance. It's not going to happen. And there's a list of other candidates who I wouldn't vote for. Ron DeSantis is also on that list. But
I'd vote for Ron DeSantis today if he was on a presidential ballot. If it was my choice between AOC and Ron DeSantis.
Oh gosh, yes, absolutely.
Come on, Jason.
I'm voting third party.
Okay.
I will vote third party. I will not vote for. I will not condone Trump Jr. or Bernie Sanders' daughter. I'm not going to vote for. I'm not going to vote. I'm not going to vote between socialism and fascism.
Nepotism in politics is what Jason's saying. End nepotism. We need some fresh candidates here.
Choices have to be better than socialism versus fascism. Sorry.
All right. One last thing about this Abrams thing. I think it's be interesting to watch. I've been of the opinion, I've said it numerous times, I have no inside information, but I think Brian Kemp is going to make his mind up pretty quickly. I know we're going to talk a little bit about is he running or not.
You're getting ahead.
I think he's going to
ahead of us. You're getting ahead of us, Buzz.
I think he's going to make his mind up quickly. Democrats were hurt 4 years ago by Abrams dragging her feet for a long time about whether she was running for governor or not. And I think she's just going to keep dragging her feet. And it's going to hang over the Democratic field. Probably going to keep money on the sidelines until she finally makes up her mind about what she's going to do. So it just we'll elaborate more when we get to
Kemp can
future.
Just easily make hats that say Kemp for governor 2026, which is what Donald Trump is doing. He's selling hats in the Trump store for $50 that say Trump 2028. $50 for one of those hats, which I guarantee you are made not in America,
No,
and
they have to be because
well, that's why they had to be $50, right?
Yeah.
Because the tariffs,
Right, maybe
they got
so.
hit by the tariffs.
right.
maybe so, but like, well, his guitars were made in China, and they got hit with a copyright intellectual property lawsuit because they look just like a Gibson Les Paul. What I was going to say was, those hats are more expensive. I just bought a new Atlanta Braves hat that cost me $45. It's $5 more expensive than a Major League Baseball hat, which I thought were the most expensive hats out there. But Scott,
Remember when I said earlier in the podcast, there are people who are stoking your outrage? Listen, it's a trolling effort, and he's going to profit off of it. Whatever, I don't know where that money is going. I imagine it would go into some sort of PAC, but I think it's Donald Trump being Donald Trump, the showman, and taking advantage of. I don't think that whole thing is real about him running for a
his
third
meme
term.
coin shot up yesterday because they announced that the top 220 owners of the Trump meme coin get to have dinner with him. So the price shot way up, and today is crashing.
Isn't there some sort of ethics law against stuff like?
Ask the Hawk Tua girl.
Dude, she ripped a bunch of people off, man.
Yeah, she hawked Tua on a bunch of people's money.
Absolutely.
And
she gone.
We will be right back.
Golden Retriever Rescue of Atlanta, GRRA, is an all-volunteer, tax-deductible charitable organization. They are dedicated to providing veterinary care, comprehensive evaluation, and foster and adoptive homes to golden and Labrador retrievers who are abandoned, mistreated, neglected, or left in shelters throughout Georgia. We encourage you to visit their website grra.com and help connect people and dogs that need each other in their lives. You truly can make this world a better place by helping find homes of gold for these golden-hearted pups.
Conservatives Concerned is a network of political and social conservatives who question the alignment of capital punishment with conservative principles and values. Our programs include educating conservatives about the failed death penalty system and mobilizing them to bring about its end. We come to this issue for a variety of reasons. Some believe that small government and the death penalty don't go together, especially when we compare the high costs of capital punishment to life without possibility of release. Some don't trust the state to get it right. We already know that some innocent people have been sentenced to death, and for others, it may already be too late. Some believe that the death penalty contradicts our values about protecting life. Find out more at conservativesconcerned.org.
All right, folks. We are back. I was going to go somewhere with this, and I've lost it. Jesus Christ! It has been a hell of a day, and I forgot where I was going with it. Yeah. So, Buzz, before we went to the break, you were talking about Brian Kemp. What's up with him? You, Scott, is he in? Is he out? Is something else happening?
I can tell you what I hope.
Let's engage.
I hope he doesn't run. And the reason why is I had this conversation with a friend who works on the Hill in DC in January. And they asked me the same question you're asking. Is Brian Kemp in, out for U.S. Senate? And I said, we keep hearing no. Everybody we talk to that are in his inner circle, they keep telling us it's probably not going to happen. It still could happen, but it's couched in very heavy skepticism because he doesn't want to be one of 100 in a dysfunctional body like the United States Senate. Anybody can do that job.
Which probably means he's going to run. So.
Well, I mean, it's possible that
if everybody thinks he's not going to, he probably means he's going to.
It's Georgia politics. It can be unpredictable at times, but we keep hearing that over and over again. So the question becomes, is he a viable United States presidential candidate? And even if he does run, would he make a great VP candidate for somebody? And I think those are pretty valid questions for him to be considering as he's going through this process on his own. That being said, the conversation I had with my friend on the Hill was he would be crazy to run for president because it's locked up. It's JD Vance's nomination. We're going to have so many successful years that when JD Vance wants to become president of the United States, he's going to walk into the Republican nomination. Nobody will even challenge him. So he better run for U.S. Senate, Scott, is what this guy told me. And I told him, look, man, we're in the first month of the second term of Donald Trump. A lot can change. And boy, howdy, we're at 100 days now, and things have changed. If something doesn't switch quickly to put us on a different track than what we are on right now, that Trump has consciously and deliberately put us on, there is no path for JD Vance. There will need to be a reasonable Republican candidate for president of the United States that can appeal across ideologies, maintain their conservative credentials, still be a Republican, but rescue the Republican Party from the damage that's being done right now through this populism virus that has infected the party.
Which JD Vance would only accelerate.
Right. He has no shot if things don't change from what they're doing right now. Kemp becomes a much more viable presidential candidate, I think, as time goes on.
Buzz?
Agreed with that last part. I have no inside information, but I don't think he's going to run for Senate. I don't.
In the pre-show, you made a very cogent point that I think you need to put on the recorded part of the podcast.
All right. So let me preface this by saying these are the crazy thoughts that come into my head in the middle of the night when I wake up and I'm laying in bed. So let's say Kemp doesn't run, right, for Senate. I posted a couple weeks ago a poll. If Kemp doesn't run, then who? And there's a cast of thousands that are lining up who might consider it, including some heavy hitters: Rich McCormick, Buddy Carter, Mike Collins. The poll did not include Marjorie Taylor Greene, but I got to think she thinks about it. John King, the insurance commissioner, Brad Raffensperger. And so I was sitting there thinking, if you're Donald Trump and you're sitting up there in Washington, you want this Senate seat, you want another senator to help get your agenda pushed through, why wouldn't you pick up the phone and call Burt Jones and say, don't waste your time running for governor. Come up here and help me get my agenda passed up here in D.C. Now, again, this is the crazy thoughts I have at 2 a.m. Okay, but it's not implausible, right? It's not implausible.
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first on Peach Pundit, the podcast. Burt Jones for U.S. Senate if Brian Kemp doesn't run.
We know that that President Trump and the lieutenant governor have a good relationship. They work well together. He was one of the early guys to jump on board when Trump ran the first time way back when. He's going to be a good candidate. He's going to have plenty of money. MAGA world here in Georgia will be behind him. And
barely
why not?
Escaped barely as a runoff in his first election. And if things keep going the way they're going, or even if they just stay where they're at, Trump will be underwater in Georgia. Yeah, Jones will be closely tied to him. That is a losing recipe.
I mean, they're gonna try to hang that around him whether he runs for Senate or for governor, right? Mm-hmm. But I think if you think back to his race for lieutenant governor against Butch Miller, he ran on his own. He probably mentioned that he played football at Georgia more than he mentioned Trump, honestly. So I think he ran his own race. He could do that again, and he could pull that off. And then as lieutenant governor, he's got 4 years. He'll have a couple years, at least 3.5 years, 3.5 sessions of accomplishments to say, I led the Senate and we did X, Y, Z. Good conservative thing. So I don't know. I'm just saying. I mean, he's gonna say that whether he runs for governor. But I don't know. I was just laying there in the bed, and so, Lieutenant Governor, I apologize for starting this crazy rumor, but this is what popped in my head, and I think he ought to think about it.
So since JD Vance got mentioned, this reminded me that I was reading the latest YouGov Economist poll last night, and amongst registered voters, JD Vance is down 10. He's favorably viewed 44%. Yeah, no, sorry, that's Trump's. Favorably viewed by 42%, unfavorably viewed by 52%. Trump's 44-55. And Vance is actually underwater with white voters by 3 points, which is interesting because Trump is above water with white voters.
Right.
So, and whatever you see of JD Vance, like, people don't like the guy.
Well, and the crazy thing is what the article the other day that Trump was going to, or had named Vance as the guy who's going to lead the tariff efforts. I mean, that's, not since Biden asked Kamala Harris to be the border czar has the president screwed over his VP worse than that.
I mean, it's and Trump is still.
I stole that from Jonah Goldberg. Sorry.
I mean, the guy is just, to me, he's a fraud. But we have other things to discuss.
We have 3 more years to discuss that, explore that topic.
Damn it, Buzz. Damn it,
Pace
Buzz.
yourself, boys. Pace yourself.
That's right.
Sorry, Miss Laura. Scott, you have, we're going to talk a little bit about candidates for the Dems, but you also have a victory lap to do.
Yes. One of my predictions has already come true. From the prediction episode at the beginning of the year, Bill Calzert has announced he is running for Attorney General, giving me the early lead this year.
I thought it was ag.
No.
That's Attorney General. AG. Ag. Gotcha.
I swear to God, I couldn't follow the text thread. This is like how crazy it's been lately. Like, I saw AG and I was like, oh, he's running for ag secretary. Don't we already have one of those?
Oh my gosh.
We've got
He's
one.
Running, running for an appointed position.
We've got one of those already.
You're all kinds of discombobulated, Jason.
Yeah, it's cocaine's a hell of a drug. I'm kidding.
You'd probably be better if you had a little speed. I'm not going to lie.
No joke. Give me some Adderall. Give me the legal stuff.
But we also heard, obviously, we talked about Jason Estevez earlier, but we also heard through the rumor mill for the very first time that 3 weeks from yesterday, we can expect an announcement by the state senator who knows everything about everything, Josh McLaurin, for lieutenant governor. Also known as JD Vance's college roommate.
That's right.
I don't
think he'll be running on that as his platform, but
no, I don't. I only know what you guys. I've never met him. Only know what you guys have discussed on here. But my response is okay.
I will say this about Senator McLaurin. He introduced a bill at one point to free the hedgehogs here in Georgia, and sadly, it didn't go anywhere. But
well,
like all the others,
Scott tried to. There is nothing wrong. Like, I do not understand why. I can't remember. I'm sure we've discussed it. Emily and I and Reagan, we have a pet hedgehog. His name is Sonic. Sonic the Hedgehog. He's the cutest thing you've ever seen. He's a house pet. He doesn't go outside.
Oh, when Buzz and I were in the legislature, Regina Quick, State Representative Regina Quick, introduced a piece of legislation that I signed on to very happily to free the hedgehog.
Yes.
Free the hedgehogs.
So you can't own a hedgehog in Georgia, but you can cockfight. So, hey.
What?
Yeah. True story.
Yeah. Only state in the country where it doesn't have a state law prohibiting
I should be able to own,
so.
If I want to have a pet hedgehog, a pet raccoon, a pet prairie dog, like Poppy the prairie dog on Instagram, I should have that damn right. Sorry, Miss Laura.
I don't know. Miss Laura might agree with that. So
property rights. It's property rights.
The hedgehogs are cute, man. They're a little prickly, but they're cute.
Just like you, Pi.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, this might be, Senator McLaurin's path is to say, folks, you make me lieutenant governor, and you will be able to own a hedgehog in the state of Georgia.
Senator McLaurin, I once again will remind everyone that I am an independent voter. But I also don't live in Georgia. I have to vote here. But I will personally bring my hedgehog down to Atlanta so you can campaign on.
Jeez, we don't need any more. Was it Pete and Frank, or Pete and the squirrel
Peanut.
and the raccoon?
Peanut, yeah.
Peanut and Frank. We don't need another one of those situations, Jason. Keep Sonic safe in Virginia. We don't need the zealot Karens down here seizing him and euthanizing him.
Zealot Karens could kiss my ass. So the NRA.
Sorry, Miss
Laura.
The NRA is in town. Of course, the president of the NRA is former Congressman Bob Barr, who's my mentor in politics. I have nothing but good things to say about Bob. But the NRA is in town. Are you guys going to the convention?
I might just go walk through the exhibition hall Saturday. So if you're planning on going, hit me up. Because
I'll be out of town Saturday, so.
But it's a big deal. It's a huge. They've taken up a huge amount of space in the Georgia World Congress Center. So just wanted to make you aware of it. You're looking for something to do this weekend.
And the Georgia Republican Party chairman's race or chair race, depending on if you want to be gender neutral. Here.
No, we don't. It's a chairman.
The Georgia Republican Party chair race appears to be heating up.
Why are you so woke?
Somebody's got to be.
Yeah, it's not me.
Somebody's got to be. That race is heating up, I guess, or so Scott has told me to say here in the agenda.
I sure get a lot of emails from the challenger, so
I
snagged my email from
I tell you guys
surreptitiously.
The best move I've made in the past, like since the beginning of the year, is unsubscribing from Georgia Republican Party emails.
Buzz, was there something that came out? I think you mentioned this in the Signal chat or somewhere about $25,000 fine for something that the party's trying to do. Talk us about that, because that's one of the parts of this conversation I wanted to highlight.
So David Cross, who I know, I've known him a while. He lives here in Gwinnett County. No,
not the same David Cross,
and not Christopher Cross.
This guy couldn't tell a joke.
80s fame, but
if you read it out of a dad joke database.
But David Cross is the current second vice chair, I guess.
Yes,
and a self-styled election integrity advocate. Is running for chairman against Josh McCoon. He blasts him all the time. You get emails left and right. An email this week, he's criticizing McCoon because McCoon wants people to sign a NDA with rules about what you can do with the delegate list. They share. The Republican Party will share with candidates the list of delegates that has their contact information, including emails. And I can always tell who has this and why they're on how they got it, because I receive emails that say George apostrophe, and then in quotes, Buzz Brockway. And I know, you snagged that off of the Georgia Republican Party delegate list from years back. It is spread all over the country. Every grifter known to man, it's all over the place. So somebody's out there selling it, and this has been going on for years. So I say kudos to Josh McCoon for trying to put some reins on this thing to keep delegates from getting hammered by people who get the list and turn around and sell it or share it far and wide. But apparently to David Cross, this is the most unbelievable, yet another reason why McCoon should not be. I didn't read through the whole NDA, but somebody pointed out to me that it's a $25,000 fine per violation, which maybe is steep, but it sure scares you out of sharing it improperly, right?
Yeah, no, well, I mean, like that. So, and I will say this: I had to go CPAC in 22, I think, and you had to register, like you had to pay to go, and it was like a special side session on criminal justice, and I spoke for a minute, and since then my inbox has been cluttered.
Oh yeah,
with like grifter emails from every like possible outlet you can imagine, and I know where they got it. They got it from CPAC.
Yeah.
Well, I happen to know personally Josh McCoon has received complaints specifically about David Cross using the party email list for his own purposes. And the reason why I know that personally is because I complained to Josh McCoon about it.
From day one, Cross has been doing this, right?
Yes. Within the first 2 months of Josh McCoon being chairman, and all of a sudden I started receiving all these emails from this organization that David Cross has set up asking me for money. And I knew exactly how he got my email address.
Yeah.
And I emailed him back, and I asked David Cross, how did you get my email? And I never got a response, nor have I gotten another email from David Cross of any kind. So all the emails that you're getting, Buzz, I'm not getting, because I had responded to him saying, I want to know specifically how you got my email address. And he didn't respond. So I went to McCoon and I said, he has stolen the list and he has repurposed it outside of use for his candidacy at the convention.
I mean,
you need to do something about it.
Did the same thing, and I'm sure they're
Alex Johnson is on doing the Grifter podcast circuit right now, complaining about this $25,000 fine thing because they do the same thing. They absolutely do the same thing.
They're about because they might, maybe if he could do it retroactively, McCune could probably fund the next election campaign off of fines from the GRA.
Yeah, if you could get blood from a rock, then you'd get the cash from those people. They don't have $25,000 later.
They could bankrupt the national GRA.
They might have 25 bucks.
The national RA, whatever.
Yeah. Look, it's a problem because there's amount of trust that goes into giving your personal information to the party, and for candidates for party official positions to repurpose that for things that it's not intended for is ethically wrong. It's not a gray area. You've crossed over into being wrong. So I'm glad that Josh is doing that, but I will also highlight that this year I have received at least 6 full color glossy mailers that are no smaller than 11 by 8.5 by 11, but sometimes 11 by 17 folded in half that feature Josh McCune's face in, like, Josh, I love you, brother. You're not doing yourself any favors
Prominently
blowing up your face on that. But it's all about Josh McCune.
Yeah.
And it's paid for by the Georgia Republican Party. Paid for by the Georgia Republic, which means he's taking resources from the party and using it to fund his own reelection campaign. So I won't say that that's wrong as the other thing is, but it's certainly in a gray area because I didn't receive anything from the party for the last couple of years that wasn't directly related to the presidential election. So I'll give him credit for doing that part. I did get mail pieces on behalf of the president of the United States for his candidacy, but I didn't get emails about updates for legislative agendas and things. None of that came until it was time for Josh McCune to run for reelection. And now he's using party resources to fund that reelection effort. And here's the biggest caveat. I chose not to participate in the convention process this year. I'll reevaluate that decision when the next round comes. But for now, I'm not even a delegate. So I haven't soapboxed this issue because it's not my circus, not my monkeys.
I remember when you used to be a conservative, Scott.
Well, they labeled me a rhino years ago, so.
Yeah, but we've known that. We've known that. Folks, that's all the time we have for this week. Thank you very much for joining us. And if you're watching on video, I know you really can't see it, but I'm in the process of reorganizing my office. And like every Zoom I've been on today, which I use a separate camera for, you can see all my guitars in the background. It's a beautiful sight. So I'm gonna just move this ever so slightly, and look at those sweet
Goodness.
art. So yeah. I have
That's like
most
more
people
than-
have pride of and stuff like that when they're showing off pictures of their kids. Jason,
That's-
it's the guitars.
actually no, I do that too. I show pictures
that's
of
like more
Reagan.
than Spinal Tap ever had. So
If Spinal Tap had more drummers.
that's true.
So, but no, folks, seriously, thank you for listening to us this week. I'm going to kick it back to Scott. Peace out. Go dog.
Ladies and gentlemen, every single podcast, we mentioned people who rock. These are the folks who reach into their pockets and voluntarily throw us a few dollars to keep us moving. If you would like to join them, you can head over to patreon.com/Peach Pundit. Sign up for one of those tiers today as a special benefit to all of our paid Patreons. You get access to the Signal chat. I was inspired by Pete Hexa. And so we created a Signal chat. And we're all in there. And we're sharing stuff every day. You can be part of that community for as little as $5 per month. And the folks that you'll be joining in there are Tony West, our friends at Americans for Prosperity, our anonymous contributor who wants you to know more about ALZ, Rob Lee, and our friends at Lee6 Media, who bring you the ad on the Georgia Golden Retriever Rescue of Atlanta, and Brett Harrell, when our friends at Conservatives Concerned, Colin Martin, Jeff Cobble, Hank Burnham, John Vestal, Jordan Reed, Ryan Purvis, Sam Thomas, Shannon Ferguson, Bo Brennan, James Hall, Mike Bucher, Reed Powell, Ron Daniels, Ryan Graham, and Stuart Wilkinson. Thank you all for being Patreons to the podcast. Also, hit the like and subscribe button while you're at it and leave a comment. Let us know how we're doing for you, and we'll catch you next time.
Go Jackets.